Video. So we will continue from where we left in the last session, that is swing in Java. And today we are going to look at creating a simple application using swing. That means we will use association in order to create our first application. Okay, so here in this program we will be looking into association, and like I said, the swing methods or the code can be written inside the main method as well as the constructor. So we will look into this program where we are using association along with the main method codes. Okay, so let me just increase the font. Okay, so here what we are trying to do is, first of all, we will try to create a frame, and there within that frame we will create a small button. So like already discussed, we have to first import swing package here. So import javax dot swing dot star and followed by semicolon, and after that we have to write down the main method. That means first let us write down the class. I'll use public class, just one second, public class format. Okay, public class, and then let me create the swing example. So the class name we will keep it same, swing1, and then let us write down the main method. So main method is public static void main, then string arguments. And now within this main method we will actually write down the code for our frame as well as the button. So for creating frame, we will call the class which is jframe. Let's keep it as fr. The object is equal to new jframe. So when we are calling this, creating this instance of jframe, essentially we mean that we are simply creating an object which will be referring to the methods which are inside jframe, and then we will also create an instance of jbutton. So since our primary target is to, so button we will keep it as bt is equal to new jbutton button, and here we will be creating an instance of the frame as well as buttons. Now what we will try to do is we will try to set bounds. Okay, so b dot set bounds, that means where what should be the x-axis, y-axis, the width and height, so that we will be considering here. So set bounds is the method for that. So set bounds, and let us keep it as 130 comma 100 comma 100 sorry 130 comma 100 comma 100 comma 40. So this is for 130 is for x-axis, y-axis is represented here, then width is represented here, and height is represented here. Now what we will do is we will simply add a particular call a particular method which is fr using the object of the jframe, and add method inside that particular frame, jframe class, and we will simply include the second object of the button. So when we are doing this, we will simply be adding button inside the jframe. Okay, now what we will be doing is we will set the size of the frame. Okay, so fr, so this is bt because we have used, so fr dot Next, let us set the size of the frame. So setting the size of the frame, we will keep it as 400 comma 500. Okay, then let us again set the layout for it. So these methods we have already discussed in our theory session, in the last session, so we can look into it. So set layout, that means we are not using any layout managers. If we want to use, definitely we can use them. And then we will be using the other method, which is set visible, and since by default set visible is false, we will set it to true. Okay, so now let us look into this program once again. So initially we imported java x.swing.star. Okay, so this is important because we are using the swing package, and then we will create the main method inside this particular class. So main method is here. Now here we are creating an instance of jframe and using the FRS object, and JButton instance. Here also we are creating one instance of JButton, and BT is the object. Then BT.setBounds, that means where should this button be in that particular frame. So it should be in the x-axis 130. The position should be in 130, 100, and the width of the button should be 100. 40 should be the height. Then we will add the button inside the frame, and then we will set the size for the frame, and we also have set the layout to be null. Oh, this code got deleted. So next we will keep it as set visible. So if we are not using this set visible, by default we will not be able to see it because it is by default false. Okay, so we will make the frame visible here. Now let us save this and execute this. So when we are trying to do this, let us first compile it. Java C swing1 dot java. Okay, so let us compile this. Okay, so no error. So let us run this. Java swing1 dot java. Okay, so when I'm executing this, see what am I getting here? I am getting here a button. Okay, I am getting here a button. So this button now, it does not have any name here. So if I want to write something inside this button, or if we want to write here as a press or click, so what should I do? I can simply pass here a value saying click me. Okay, so if I'm passing this as a parameter here, so if I run this again, sorry, okay, so what will I do? I'll simply terminate this. Okay, so Java Java C swing1 dot java. So let me compile this. No error. So, and here now I will execute this. Okay, so when I'm executing this, now what I can see is I can see this button as click me. Okay, so this is how basically we can create a button inside a frame. So this is nothing but a frame that I have created. Inside this I have a button which is at the position 130 from the x-axis and 100 from the y-axis, and it has a width of 100 and a height of 40. Okay, it is generated in pixels. So in this particular frame we are adding this button, and we are setting the size of the frame as 400 and 500. Okay, 400 is the x-axis value, x value, and y is the 500. Okay, and we are using there are no layout managers here, so we are using null. Okay, and then we are using visibility as true. Now if I'm using this, if I'm not using this particular parameter, then I will not be able to see this particular value here. Okay, so like I said, if let's say we are keeping here as if I'm not using this, okay, so if I'm not using this, let's see what should be the value I'm getting. I'll compile this again and let us execute this. So when I'm executing this, I will not be able to see this, okay. The layout itself is not visible to us. It will not be shown, though it will compile correctly, but it will not be shown. Once again, let me run this. So I get an instance of this program, but I will not be able to see this, okay. Right. So now if I am using, and it automatically gets terminated, because if I'm not being able to see this, it does not mean that it is correct, okay. So let us again compile and execute and see this. Now see, we are getting this button, we get it loaded here. All right, so this is basically how the Java Swing package or Java Swing works, okay. We are getting a window based application here. So this is how we will get it. Now the next one is, if we are using this the code we wrote inside the main method, what we if we write inside the constructor, okay. What do we do if we use a constructor? So when we are using a constructor, we have to be clear about one thing, that we will not be writing anything inside the main method. We'll simply call the constructor here, okay. So let me first write down. So this is inside constructor. So code inside constructors, code inside constructor. So let us first look into it, how it works, and then we will talk into understand what are the things which are associated with it, okay. So first I will inside we will have to call the swing package here, okay, and then JFrame, we will simply initialize this particular class, okay, with an object. Then since I am simply using a constructor here, so swing 1, and then it is there, and then I'll simply write down the value of the constructor, write down the code inside the constructor. So fr is equal to new JFrame. You can write down the first line here as well, there is no problem, okay. It is just for creating the instance of the frame. So if I'm creating the instance here, then let's write down the next line of code. I'll simply copy this, okay, copy all of this codes into the constructor which is here, okay. So all of them, the same codes, I am trying to write it in the constructor. And yes, it is a non-parameterized constructor, we are not passing any value from it, right. So this is the same code which we have written it for our previous one. That means the code was inside the main method, and here what I'll do is I will simply call the constructor new swing 1 and done. So what will I do is here is, now I will simply compile the program, okay. I'll simply compile. Let's write down the compilation. Yes, so it has no error. Now let us execute this, and when we are executing this, we can see the same output as we saw earlier when we used the code inside the main method, right. So here what we did, we simply created this particular constructor, and we have written the code inside this constructor, okay. So this is how both association works with the code inside the main method as well as code inside the constructor. And here we are using JFrame and JButton, okay. Likewise, we have several other classes of different component classes. We will see them one by one, but today we will just look at the association and inheritance and how they can be utilized in order to create this particular how they can be used to create in this particular GUI or in this particular application. Okay, so the next program or the next example that we will look into is, we saw association, now we will look into inheritance. Okay, so let me first write down this. Okay, so we will simply write down inheritance here. Okay, inheritance, right? So inheritance, so we can also inherit the JFrame class. Here what we were doing, we were creating an instance of the JFrame, but here now swing 1 will extend the JFrame. So here what I'm doing, if I'm extending the JFrame, that means I'm inheriting the JFrame class, right? So here we will keep the same code here, that JFrame we are creating an instance of it, fr. Okay, inside this particular constructor we can write down the same code that we had, there is no harm. Okay, and let us first execute and see this, how does it work. Okay, so we have to quit this first. So let me quit this. Okay, so when I'm quitting this, again I'm back to my console. Let's compile this, there is no error, and we will simply do this. Yes, so when I'm using this as well, I am being able to create or I'm able to write get the same output. Now what is the difference? The difference is that when I'm using extends JFrame, that means if I'm extending the JFrame, that means I do not have to create an instance of it. Okay, I do not have to create an instance of it. I'm simply creating a an object which will be pointing to the methods of the JFrame. Okay, so let us again see whether this particular program works or not when I'm not creating any instance here. Okay, so because by default the properties would be here, yes, it is compiling correctly, and when I'm executing this, okay, I'm getting a null pointer exception here. So now when we are doing this, you have to understand that there is a concept of an exception which it is saying that we will not be able to use this null pointer exception. Now why this particular exception is showing? Because I have used this as an object when I am not creating this as an object, but I'm simply using this as a variable which would be pointing to that the method of that particular class. Now let us compile and run this. We got a exception here. Okay, now when I'm running this, now see, we get the same output. Okay, now this is happening because we have not created an instance of this particular JFrame in fr, but we are simply using this to point to the JFrame methods. Okay, so if I'm using this, essentially all these methods, they belong to the JFrame. Okay, they belong to the JFrame, and for accessing this particular methods, we do not explicitly need to have a particular object in order to access those methods inside the JFrame. Okay, so this is all about the swing, Java swing. Okay, from the point of inheritance and association, we will be looking more into this when we will be doing other component classes. But as of now, we have to understand that we can write the code both inside a constructor as well as we can write it inside the main method. Also, we can inherit the particular component class which we want to use and make use of their methods whenever possible or wherever we think that it is applicable. So that is all for this session. We will talk more about this in our next session. Thank you.